Chapter 103.
Sect leader, get yourself together. Where are the doctors? Are they still away?
Doctor, get out of the way. Hyunsang pushed Hyunyoung aside, put his hand on Hyunjong's back, and quickly began to channel his ki into the man. No, his danjan is shaking in happiness. Hyunsang was surprised. He had never heard of such an absurd thing. However, this bizarre event was happening right in front of him. Hyunjong took deep breaths as he received the elder's ki infusion.
I've calmed down.
Are you alright, sect leader?
Am I fine?
Hyunjong stared absent-mindedly at Hyunsang. The elder couldn't think of a time when he'd seen the sect leader look so dumbfounded before.
You're asking me if I'm alright now.
I made a mistake, Sahyung.
What are... Oh my.
Hyunjong took one deep breath after another. He wasn't able to calm down. Why? Hyunsang could understand. Even his hands were still trembling. How could the sect leader remain calm and not be thrilled right now?
Eungum.
Yes, sect leader.
Did you teach the children that?
Eungum smiled slightly. I wish I could answer yes. I would be able to stand tall with my shoulders straight, but unfortunately, I did not. The third-class disciples conducted this training by themselves.
By themselves?
Hyunjong looked back at Eungum incredulously, unable to understand. Saje, explain it to me. Eunam urged Eungum to be more detailed. Despite his usual calmness, he couldn't stifle his excitement at this moment. It was probably Chongmyeong who...
Chongmyeong?
Now, it wasn't so shocking. Whenever something happened, his name would come up. Even now, his heart somehow predicted this name would pop up.
That child. What the hell has that child been doing?
Wasn't the sect leader the one who gave him permission to enter the sect? You don't know anything about him.
How could I know? He just showed up one day. I felt that it was meant to be, so I accepted him.
That simple connection was creating unbelievable results. Ever since Mount Hua was destroyed by the demonic sect and the ancestors were annihilated, Mount Hua was unable to defeat the Jongnam sect. Actually, it wasn't correct to say that they had won. Objectively speaking, Mount Hua no longer had the strength to even compete with the Jongnam sect. That's why, despite all their previous provocations, Mount Hua was forced to remain silent and endure their lashings. However, the third-class disciples overcame this disparity in strength, and it wasn't just a victory, but a clean sweep.
Oh, my ancestors.
Hyunjong's eyes turned red. The day had finally arrived. Hyunjong firmly believed that this day would come, but he thought that it would be impossible to see it in his lifetime. He truly felt satisfied after witnessing the scene that he had always dreamt of. He couldn't bring himself to wish for anything more.
Sect leader, we did it! The children did it! Yes, right. Quite terrific.
Hyunjong wasn't even able to speak coherently. He just continued to agree over and over.
Now that I've lived to see this, I can greet the ancestors with pride. What? Why is that child coming out again?
Hyunjong blinked several times to double-check. However, the scene in front of him didn't change. With a wooden sword at his waist, Chongmyeong walked toward the central area once more. He looked at Hyunjong. I think he's looking this way.
What is he going to do now?
Now, the expectations were greater than the concerns. Hyunjong clenched his fist and continued to observe. At that moment, Chongmyeong smiled wickedly. Could a Taoist make such an expression? What the hell was he trying to do? At that moment, Hyunjong doubted whether this child had fallen from his path as a Taoist.
You pathetic bastards!
Sama Seung was about to lose himself to anger. He bit his lip so severely that it tore and blood flowed to the side. 10 consecutive losses. There was no defeat more disastrous. At first, they had secured 10 straight wins, but no one would remember that. Losing to Mount Hua, and in such an overwhelming fashion, had paralyzed the elder's mind. Even if Mount Hua was unable to stand against their sect, nobody could laugh off such a disgraceful event as losing 10 matches after dominating the previous 10. It wasn't technically a loss, but it almost felt worse.
Didn't you all say you were going to victoriously return as proud disciples of the Zhongnam sect? What the hell is this loss to Mount Hua? You pathetic bastards!
As if spewing fire, he kept coughing out his anger.
You idiots are destroying the honor of the sect. You lost to Mount Hua in front of so many people. To Mount Hua! Ugh, you assholes!
The third-class disciples couldn't even look at Sama Sung or the second-class disciples who were glaring at them. While Sama Sung was overwrought with anger, Jin Gomryung glared at the young disciples as if he wanted to kill them. It was done. His hope for a clean victory had collapsed horribly. A draw with Mount Hua, something they never dreamed of. But wasn't that what happened? Damn it. Jin Gomryung couldn't hold back from cursing, despite his elder being there. As he turned his bloodshot gaze, filled with rage, towards Mount Hua's disciples, he was shocked at what he saw. That brat! Hearing his words, Sama Sung turned and watched as Chongmyung walked out.
That bastard! Even if I tore him apart, it wouldn't be enough to calm down.
As Sama Sung thought about it more deeply, wasn't that child the one who started everything?
Why is he coming out again?
Everyone present shifted their focus to Chongmyung.
Oh my god, for such results. It seems like Mount Hua has sharpened their swords. Unimaginable. 10 wins. The third-class disciples from the Zhongnam sect couldn't defeat even one of Mount Hua's disciples.
And there was another thing no one spoke about. The third-class disciples from Mount Hua defeated their opponents even more overwhelmingly than how Zhongnam's second-class disciples secured their victories. What's more, it was pitiful to reflect on how the Zhongnam sect's disciples behaved while winning. At the time, it seemed natural for the strong to stand above their opponents. However, seeing Mount Hua's third-class disciples handle their victories with grace made the Zhongnam's previous ridicule and provocation seem ugly and resentful. Aren't they superior in manners as well as their skill?
Truly, Mount Hua is a sect that deserves to be called prestigious. I am shocked by their composure.
It's going up, rising up and up. Mount Hua's name was rising up. At this moment, it had reached the sky. Meanwhile, Master Huang struggled to suppress a joyous scream from his heart. After this event, the audience would reassess their initial thoughts about Mount Hua. It was apparent that some were already calculating how much to invest, but the value will be difficult to determine. For them, these results were completely unexpected. The more Hua Munyak thought about it, the more he realized just how wonderful it was for him to meet Chongmyung and invest in Mount Hua. Now then. It was then. Wait! Someone shouted while Master Huang was about to end the proceedings.
Huh?
Turning his head, he looked at the center and saw Chongmyung smiling. Isn't he that boy from earlier? He called himself Chongmyung. He spearheaded this victory. Hwang Munyak met Chongmyung's eyes while listening to the crowd gossip around him.
What is it, young disciple?
Chongmyung smiled and continued. I have a question I would like to ask. Since all of you saw everything that happened here, I think you can make an appropriate judgment.
What was that?
Who won?
Huh? Who won?
Well, Hua Munyak's expression hardened.
The young disciple doesn't want to end this with a draw.
He didn't know what he planned, but he had to respond to it. Hwang Munyak slowly turned his head and looked at everyone as he asked,
What do you think? Come to think of it, we have yet to decide the winner or loser.
The people of Shangxi who gathered there fell into thought and began to speak one after another. A draw seems appropriate, but if we had to determine a winner, wouldn't it be the Zhongnam sect that won thanks to the older students?
What nonsense! What's the purpose of this conference? Isn't it for the future of the sects? Then shouldn't we prioritize the third-class disciples? It's a victory for Mount Hua, where the younger generation prevailed. Huh? What are you saying? Potential is just potential. It's always possible that the third-class disciples will fail to surpass the Jongnam second-class disciples.
Then, you have to look at the situation of the Jongnam sect's third-class disciples. They are all younger than the third-class disciples from Mount Hua. There's a big difference in their ages. The oldest of Mount Hua's second-class disciples are even younger than the youngest of the Jongnam sect's disciples.
No,
There was no conclusion. Everyone had their own reasons, and they had their own preference for who won. Hwang Munyak, who listened from the side, then spoke.
Young disciple, it is difficult to draw a conclusion.
Right? Chongmyung snapped. But if this ends, it would be uncomfortable for the audience here. Besides that, I'm sure the Jongnam sect would feel gloomy if we didn't settle this with certainty.
What do you mean?
Simple. Chongmyung pointed to the Jongnam sect. The 10 people that won over there, the Jongnam sect, listened to Chongmyung, against the only 10 that won from Mount Hua.
Why us?
Yunjong stuttered. Chongmyung looked at both sides and spoke. The only solution is to remove the losers and put the winners back into the match. Would that give a clear answer?
Is he crazy? What's he planning? They're second-class disciples, and we are just third-class disciples. No, there's no way he would jump into a losing fight. He must be up to something.
Without disappointing the expectations of his Sahyungs, Chongmyung put in a condition. Instead,
Yes.
just as the third-class disciples felt relieved, a sound, like thunder, fell. Let's set aside the boring one-on-one matches. One fighter will remain until the end. A fight where whoever wins continue battling until he loses. The winner will fight the next person in line. The last one standing wins. What do you think? Chongmyung looked at the Jongnam sect with a unique smile. Of course, it's understandable if they're scared. It was an unavoidable attack.